This message is intended as a reminder that we are not licensed professionals, not psychiatrists or psychologists. If you have a serious problem, please seek professional help. The National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255.
Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Hearing all these letters read aloud by damsels not in distress. Host came to impress. Bitch, check your DMs. This is hot off the press.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Damsels in the DMs. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Chloe.
And today we are recording on Inauguration Day, and it just has a good vibe in the air. Let's just say that. The guest that we have on today, it was really special to be able to have this conversation today. It was definitely like a cross-pollination between my two careers, which was really fun and just made me feel super grateful. And I'm super grateful to have this platform to talk about these important topics that we'll be getting into today. And, it's nice that my day job also gets to focus on work that really makes a difference and matters for a lot of people that we'll get into.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask too, I know you double majored in Spanish in college, right?
Yeah, so I was really lucky and got to live in a bunch of different Spanish-speaking countries when I was in high school. But then when I went to college, I double majored and also got the opportunity to study abroad more there. So when I graduated, I got the job like pretty much immediately. And it was really nice because when I went to college, I really missed being able to speak Spanish. And some of the programs that are more specific, like BFA versus BA acting, you can't do a double major. So it was really important to me to be able to have that double major, and honestly has like impacted so much of what my life post college has been. So I feel very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, so I studied abroad in Bolivia for a little bit in college, and I was always so amazed by the Spanish language. And I remember doing all this like Google translating while I was there. And one night I went out and I figured out how to say like your child's really cute or like your son is really cute. And I said that to someone because I was like so excited to say it. And then he said all this stuff back so fast. And I was like, God damn it. And then I was like, I'm the problem now though, because then now I want him to speak English back to me. But no, it's a beautiful language. So we're so excited to have Jose on today.
Let's go talk to him. Today we are here with Dr. José Medina, who is a very close colleague of mine and is also a language researcher and sociocultural competence advocate. And I will let him explain more about what all of that means, because as many of you know, this is not topics that we usually address on the podcast, but I think I've mentioned before that I work as an editor for Dual Language Schools, which works to create community among dual language administrators, teachers, and researchers. And Jose is basically the cream of the crop as far as it goes in the dual language field. If you guys understood dual language, trust me, you'd know we have a celebrity here today.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super excited. I absolutely have loved working with a team at duallanguageschools.org. And of course, Lauren and I, we hang out virtually all the time because she actually is the person that I connect with every time that I write an article for duallanguageschools.org and create videos that are shared widely. So thank you, Lauren, first of all, for allowing me the space to come and hang out with you. And now I have a new friend. Ella se llama Chloe. And for those of you that don't know dual language and what that means, basically I'm a language researcher. I serve schools and districts throughout the United States and internationally, and provide support to educators that are wanting to really cause disruption, like good trouble, right? In the name of equity and social justice, because the truth is that school systems in the United States really were conceptualized to promote a white, monolingual, monocultural, patriarchal, heteronormative, and often xenophobic way of teaching and learning. And so as somebody who is super queer, super brown, and who loves to talk Spanglish, I feel like it's my duty to really lead that disruption. And I've been doing that for a while. You know, I've been a teacher, an administrator, a principal, a district leader, and now live in the DC area and serve all over the country. So mucho gusto. Gracias por estar con ustedes. Lauren, can I share my full name? Because I mean, I love my full name.
Yes, I actually wanted you to do that. And I wanted you to, if you don't mind explaining like why you like doing that, because I remember when Jose first told me about this, he was like, "But what's your full name?" I was like, "I don't know, Lauren Harris." And then he explained to me, like, this is why we have to know our full name. And I don't know if I told you this, Jose, but when you asked me my full name, you got me to consider my mother's maiden name, which is Balchunas, which then led me to explore my Lithuanian heritage. And I'm now applying to be a dual citizen in Lithuania and the US. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. No, that makes me so happy. You hadn't told me that. My full name, as you know, is long because when I started the schooling system, Chloe, you don't know this, but when I started school in El Paso, Texas, as a new student, I was a very nervous child and I never wanted to stay in school. And so I got kicked out of kinder, ended up finally going to school the full day in first grade. But my teacher changed my name from Jose to Joe because she wanted me to more quickly Americanize me. And that's been a struggle. That was a struggle my whole life because I was Joe at school, and then I was Junior. I'm a junior, but my parents only speak Spanish, so they say Junior. And it wasn't until my 20s and even into my 30s that I was like, "Who the hell's Joe?" My mom taught me my full name, and so my name is Dr. Jose Luis Medina Hernandez Franco Lopez Junior Diaz Cruz. That's my dad's two last names, my mom's two last names. I'm a junior. And then I added the Diaz Cruz because I've been married to my husband, Alvin Antonio Diaz Cruz, from San Juan, Puerto Rico for over 17 years. So I wanted to make it even more, like telenovela-like, longer and more dramatic.
And you have a child. Can we hear the child's name?
Yes, our child's name, he's a four-legged child. His name is Nico Valentino Medina Diaz Hernandez Cruz. Because, he needs to own himself too. From the moment he was born 2 years ago, he needs to know that he is somebody who has to own himself. He does identify as he, his, and him. So there you go. Those are his pronouns.
That's such an amazing name. I just think of all like the basic boys that I'm trying to date now, and I'm like, you need to up your name game because you're boring.
I mean, come on, Chloe. If they don't have a telenovela name, there's something questionable there.
Yeah, I think they need to go over the door. Well, I was just going to say if you could dig a little bit more into like kind of the dual languages and things, because I would love to kind of just learn more about it and why America is so hell-bent on only teaching us English.
Yeah, so we're the only country that I'm aware of that really sees English monolingualism as equal to patriotism, which is so crazy. Like multilingualism is the norm everywhere else in the world. But in this country, for some reason, we have just been opposed to that. And what's even more interesting is that if you're a person who has racial privilege and you speak Spanish, particularly, because there's this hatred of those that speak Spanish here in the United States. So if you're somebody who has racial privilege and you speak Spanish, it's a global skill. But if you're brown and you speak Spanish, you immediately get identified as a student entering the schooling system as limited English proficient. Like that's actually the label given to our students. Rather than superfabulosity multilingual child, which most kids that are Latino or Latine or Latinx, because everyone deserves the right to identify as they wish, really is multilingual from the moment that they come out of the womb, and many are simultaneous bilinguals. So dual language programming really tries to do away from that kind of really culturally destructive ideology. And so students in dual language programs are able to receive usually 50% of their instruction in English and 50% of their instruction in the partner language. In many cases in the United States, most are Spanish-English programs, but there are other dual language programs where the partner language is Vietnamese or Mandarin. And so it allows students this great opportunity to love their entire identity, which for the longest time we've been really culturally and linguistically oppressed in schools and have been told that we are not enough because we bring different into the educational space. And so that's why I love dual language, because it really allows specifically Black, Indigenous students of color an opportunity to feel valued and loved. And at the same time, bring those that are mobilizing English as their first language, also an opportunity to be language and cultural models for each other. So you get a mix of kids that really, I think, has the possibility to change the world, because the truth is we're all a hot mess. All of us bring bias and prejudice into the space. But in dual language, sociocultural competence and critical consciousness are the foundation of that dual language program. So it's not just about getting our kids to be bilingual and biliterate. It's about getting them to understand that they need to own whatever bias and discrimination is in their heart, but also to leverage whatever privilege they carry and be able to create access to that privilege for others. And that's different. That's a different kind of educational model.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because it really is only the US who does this English only thing. Like, you go anywhere else in the world, people are speaking 5 languages, and that's by far incredible. I remember when I had a Spanish exchange program, un intercambio, in Spain, my student spoke like 5 different languages when I was going to live with her in Seville just to learn one other language, you know? And at the time, it was like, oh my God, you speak so many languages. That's incredible. But I think it was only because of my privilege that I was able to see it from my education and where I grew up and the Quaker school education that I've had, that allowed me to know, like, oh, it's amazing to be able to speak multiple languages. But so many schools in the US don't have that opportunity or that privilege to understand that it is a privilege and also like an amazing benefit to yourself and like to your cultural outlook to speak multiple languages.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm paraphrasing a quotation from one of my favorite activists and authors, Gloria Ansaldúa, but she says that if you wanna put me down, if you want to destroy me, speak badly about my language, because I am my language. And I mean, we don't have to think far. Remember that in 2019, in August of 2019, a white supremacist drove from the Dallas, Texas area to my hometown of El Paso to kill as many brown folks who spoke Spanish as possible. We have videos every week, it seems, of somebody who's a person of color actually being targeted and attacked, often, with force, but many other times verbally, for speaking Spanish specifically, or any other language that doesn't happen to be English. And so I think that that's one of the things that drives my work. Since most of the people in my field, most researchers, most leading dual language experts still continue to be white males and heterosexuals, females as well. And there are very few of us who are people of color. I feel like it's my opportunity to really represent and be that disruptor that I wish I had had when I was a brand new teacher in the schooling system. Plus, the queer intersection, of course, makes everything more fabulous. I mean, I cause disruption and discomfort wherever I go, which just makes me so excited.
Yeah, I want to hear you explain Desmadre. But one of the other things that I wanted to bring up is that it's really been amazing because one of my jobs as an editor for dual language is that I host a Teacher of the Month program where we award a different dual language teacher each month and we talk about their accomplishments. And it's been so amazing seeing the teachers who were awarded the Teacher of the Month who are now all going to get their doctorate degrees to become administrators. I mean, I can think of easily Carrie Valencia, Angela Palmieri, all people who were inspired by the work that you do to go get their doctorates. Like Carrie Valencia said that to me right away.
I mean, don't make me cry, because I've been a mess all freaking day with,
I
the
know. We haven't even said
inauguration.
that.
I've been
Yeah.
so excited. And so one of the things that I always share with teachers is that as an openly queer educator who I've never had the privilege of being straight passing, I never had any of my principals or assistant principals ever want to mentor me, even though I was a rock star teacher and they exploited my talents and I did so many things after school and on weekends, and they always depended on me. But I never had one administrator in all of those years as a teacher in Texas say, Jose, you should go get your administrative certification. You really have what it takes to be an assistant principal or a principal. And that is bullshit, because the reason that they didn't try to help me and mentor me is because I was gay, and they didn't see me as somebody that would be able to move in the world of administration. And so I tell the teachers that I serve all over the country and internationally, like, you are the answer. You are the person, the administrator that you've been waiting for. Because the truth is that white heterosexual men tend to mentor white heterosexual men, who then turn around and mentor white heterosexual men. And so for me, it was really important to break that pattern. And it was actually my husband, Alvin Antonio, Tony, who said, Medina, he calls me Medina because he's a retired sergeant major. He served 21 years in the Army. And he was like, Medina, you're doing all of this work. Like, why don't you become an administrator? And I was like, I'm gay. Like, I can't, I'm gay. Like, there's no way. No, they wouldn't let me. And he's like, vas a dejar que alguien te diga que puedes hacer, which means vas a dejar que alguien te diga puedas hacer lo que puedas hacer. And I was like, okay, I can do it. And so I already had a master's degree, so I went back and received my administrative certification. And I interviewed for that first AP job. And it's so funny, I tried to lower my voice. I tried to like posture for the first couple of interviews. I interviewed 7 times. I interviewed for 7 positions. And then finally, Tony said, be yourself. And so on that 8th interview, I went in and I was like, so I'm an openly gay Chicano, Spanglish speaking language learner. My areas of expertise are how to serve emergent bilingual students, sup. And I got the position. And I've been disrupting ever since. I've been gayifying the United States educational system. I mean, that's my goal.
Well, and Chloe, just for like your edification, so like normally we have these big conferences or these big like teaching summits, and you hear like speech after speech. I hear speech after speech from these people, and like they're going through these seminars, and they all sound like variations of the same thing, right? And then Jose comes in, and it is just like an explosion of energy. And honestly, like what I wanted to say to you that I thought was interesting as you were speaking, like I also think that you have a way of validating women, because women also like don't advocate for themselves, and women also like are more likely to allow a man to like step in to take a higher role that even though they deserve. But like when I talk about women, like I mentioned earlier from the Teacher of the Month program, I do think that you really empowered them also.
The reason that I advocate for women is that women shaped me. My mother, Margarita, with only the opportunity to receive a 6th grade education from Juarez, is my greatest mentor and was my first teacher. She taught me how to read in Spanish that kindergarten year that I was kicked out for not speaking Spanish, not speaking English. And then my abuelita Juanita, my mom's mom, she took care of us a lot in our childhood. And she would pull her chancla, her slipper, and give us a good hit when we didn't listen to what she was telling us to do. But she also taught me my life's motto, which is lo que se dice se hace. What you say.
And also the title of his first book.
The title of my first testimonial book, Lo que se dice se hace, what you say you do. And so for me, as somebody who has been marginalized as a student, but also as an educator, I feel like women, specifically women of color, have often just been thrown to the side. And so I know that whatever privilege I have access to right now, because even as a gay man and a Latina person, I carry privilege now. All of us have privilege of some kind. I know that my job is to open doors and pull people in. And if it's women, they go to the front because they deserve to be at the front. They deserve to be at the front. Yeah, so I've done a lot of work, Chloe, around testimonials. Testimonio is testimony work. And it's actually a research methodology that originated in Latin America. But because it was brown folks that were engaging in this research, it was often not amplified and utilized and revered. And so I, along with other researchers in the field, have really taken testimonial work and done some deep understanding and analysis of it so that kids can really value who they are. And one of the activities that we do with educators is it's called 3 words. And for example, I am many things. I am a son, I'm a husband, I'm a gunkle, I'm an educator, I am an advocate. But at the core, each of us, the decisions that we make really go through 2 or 3 lenses. And so by you as an individual identifying what are my 3 words that at the core really create that intersection for everything that you do, then you can better serve others. And so my 3 words are language learner, English language learner. That's shaped my life. Gay, and Mexican. Those 3 pieces really have driven my life's mission. And so in this activity, participants in our professional workshops, they have to identify the meanest thing that they have ever, as educators, said, thought, or have heard others say about, first, gay people. Second, English language learners. And third, Mexicans. And so the participants fully share. And so for gay, I mean, I've been called a pervert. I've been called a pedophile. I've had families want their kids out of my classroom. I've been called a joto, a maricon, a sissy, a pato, all of these things. And the same for the other 2, language learners need to learn English. We're in America. Mexicans are rapists and murderers. But then at the end of the session, what I have the educators do is they come back with some of the most amazing things that they could say about the gay community, the LGBTQ plus community, language learners in their classrooms, and those that are from Latina families, right? And we cover them with another Post-it note, but we leave the negative underneath because they need to understand that it's always right below the surface. And if January the 6th has taught us anything, as well as the past 4 years, is that it's always been under the surface. It always has been. So,
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna make me emotional today. It's so good though. I love that.
I mean, Chloe, I'm trying my best, and our team. I lead a team of 16 people, and we're all out there just really ensuring that teachers understand that all of us are biased and that all of us are flawed. And that if we're going to engage in sociocultural competence, which is really seeing the similarities, but also the differences in each other and seeing the differences as ways to connect, if we're going to engage in critical consciousness work, which is really about leveraging your privilege to create access for others to be able to get to that privilege as well, it's about chipping away systems of oppression. When you get teachers, educators, administrators to understand that, then maybe we can begin the journey of engaging our students in that process as well. And as a former principal, I can tell you that it can be a reality. On the campus where I served last, we had dual language programming as well as monolingual programming, and all of the kids wanted to be bilingual and biliterate, and all of them wanted their little bracelet that said, "I'm a defender of equity and social justice, soy defensor de la equidad y justicia social." At 4 and 5 years old, they were taught that their job was to serve others, and that's what we need. So that's what I try to promote.
I love that. Well, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask a little bit too, like as much as you feel comfortable, like your coming out story and what that was like. I mean, you touched on it a little bit professionally, but with your parents, it seems like your mom's a big support system. As much as you feel comfortable, would love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think the first thing that I would want your listeners, and I know that you're also recording this, your viewers, to know, especially those of you that identify as heterosexual, please understand that for those of us that are a part of the LGBTQ plus community, we have to come out every single day, often multiple times a day. Every single time that I facilitate a professional learning session, I have to, within the first 5 minutes, let them know about my family's education. I need to let them know that I was a Spanish speaker, that I'm a language learner, that I'm married to Alvin Antonio Diaz Cruz Medina, because that's the only way then that I'm able to push their boundaries and get them to be critically self-reflective. And I think that all starts with my family. I have an amazing family. Son mexicanos, son de Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua. My mom, as I mentioned, went up to the 6th grade. My dad went up to the 5th grade. They moved over to El Paso, Texas when they were pregnant with me. So I was actually made in Mexico. I know, but I was born in the United States. Um, and so they didn't have a lot of opportunities, so they worked in factories. They sewed Levi's jeans, and they worked also for Farah, another textile manufacturing company. Um, very Mexican, very Catholic. Um, I know that I'm making a generalization, but there often tends to be some machismo in
Yeah.
some communities and families, and so that is the environment that I grew up in. I remember being like 3 or 4 years old, and I took one of my mom's magazines, and there was a picture of one of my favorite singers. He used to come out in a TV show on Sundays that Mexican families watched called Siempre en Domingo, which was like a variety show on Sundays. His name is Juan Gabriel. Maybe you've heard of him. If not, you have to YouTube him. So I remember being 3, 4 years old and cut out a picture of Juan Gabriel. And I remember hiding it underneath my socks in my sock drawer. My brother and I had twin beds, and the sock drawer thingy was in the middle, you know, the little chest thingy. And so I knew from a very young age that I loved people that I shouldn't love in that way. Like there was something that was different. I mentioned that I was in straight passing, so my mom and my dad always had to contend at family reunions, Christmas parties, birthday parties with my uncles, specifically on my dad's side, making fun of me and calling me a faggot. I remember one particular Christmas, we were at a get together at my grandmother's house, my paternal grandmother's house, and I was running, and I guess I was running like a girl. And one of my uncles made a comment, and my dad got pissed off. And so he and my dad started arguing, and all of a sudden my uncle pulled out a gun. And I remember that all of a sudden my dad and my mom pushed us into the back of the pickup truck and took us away to safety to another uncle and aunt's house. We didn't even sleep in our own home that night, because that uncle wanted to kill me because I was embarrassing our Mexican family. And that's just one instance. I mean, my cousins were horrible to me. Even when I would go to Juarez, they would call me Joto and Ballena, which means like fat whale, you know, fat gay whale, and things like that. So I was very scared to come out. My brother, Gilberto, who's 3 years younger than I'm the oldest. He really is everything I think my father specifically wanted in a firstborn son. He was very athletic and played baseball and was handsome and thin. And the girls wanted to date him, and the boys wanted to be, you know, best friends with him. And I just wasn't. And so I hid from them. I came out in school when I was about 16 years old. I had a very traumatic middle school and high school experience as a gay boy. I actually changed high schools, came back to my original high school once I came out. Once I came out at school, I had an easier time. One of my friends that I met who was also gay, his name is Gabriel. He taught me how to be gay. Like he was more comfortable in being gay, and so he taught me how to be sassy and like have all of the comebacks. And so when the kids in high school would say "you faggot," you know, I would turn around and be like, "What, you want to date?" You know, and then they'd, you know, be petrified and horrified. But basically things got a little bit better my junior and senior year in high school. When I started owning who I was, but it wasn't until my 20s that I came out to my parents, because that was a very different situation. I came out to my sister when she was 10. My sister was a surprise. I'm 11 years older than her. There's a cool poem in the new book that I wrote called Boys Don't Cry, where I write about that experience. She saved me as well, because she became my living, breathing doll. And so I came out to her when she was like 2 or 3 years old. Of course, she didn't understand, but then I came out to her when she was 10. And so she was the first. My brother Gilberto was the second. And my brother Gilberto, when I came out to him, we were outside of our house by the garage. And my house, my family's home, has brick around the garage. And my brother Gilberto actually punched the brick when I came out to him, because he was so devastated. He's awesome though. Immediately supported me and was like, "What do we need to do? Who's bullying you?" And he had done that my whole life, but now when confronted with the words, "I'm gay," that was his reaction. Immediately turned it around, and I have to say that now, he has kids, and is married to a wonderful woman, my sister-in-law, Ana. And the thing that I love about Gilberto and Ana is that my three nieces and my nephew, from the time that they were little, all they have known is their Tío Junior and their Tío Tony. So, like, from the time that they were little, they knew that their uncles were married and they were both male. And so they have raised the most fabulous kids. And they draw pictures in school of their two favorite gunkles, of course. And then my parents, it was a different story. My parents, my mom accepted it much more quickly. It took my dad a while. Within a couple of days, he told me that he loved me, but it was definitely a process. I would say that for them to feel comfortable took a couple of years. By the time that I met my husband, my now husband, at the age of 32 is when I met him. They were ready, I think, and they love Tony more than they love me, I think, which is awesome. But they've come around, and now the four of us travel every year. Prior to COVID, we took a trip of a lifetime every year because my parents always dreamed of traveling. And so my mom and my dad, who only still speak Spanish, which is wonderful, and who have a limited education, they've traveled with Tony and I to Russia and to Germany and France and Spain and Italy. I mean, they've been like all over the world. They're like world travelers. Which is kind of amazing. So I guess it's a long journey. It's a journey. So I would tell your listeners that everyone has a different path to their coming out, and everyone's unique story and experience is valuable. This is just mine.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about, because you mentioned Machismo, and I want to talk about Boys Don't Cry, also your book. As you know, because I had you watch it, I created a short film that was also about LGBTQ identity growing up in machismo culture, which is a lot of what you talk about in Boys Don't Cry. And I know that Boys Don't Cry was dedicated towards parents and like the dual language community being more open in accepting people of LGBTQ identity. And I want to hear like about why you wanted to create it, what your journey was to creating it, and even like I know Velasquez Press is the publisher, but like what getting a company to publish it, like we want to hear all about that.
Sure. So I'm really grateful to my colleagues at Velasquez Press because once I started to serve at the national and international levels, like there were people that reached out to me to share my story. But I decided to go with Velasquez Press because it was important for me that the children's books that I write, which are in English and in Spanish, I wanted to make sure that they were in both languages, that they allowed me to have creative control because I didn't want to sugarcoat the stories that I was sharing with kids. And so the books are in English with Spanglish, and they're in Spanish with Spanglish. And I remember the conversation that allowed me to decide to go with Velasquez Press because I had spoken to a couple other people, and for the Spanish book versions, they kept saying, well, so how would we translate this into English? And I said, well, my grandmother didn't speak English, so it has to be in Spanish. And they were like, wait a minute, but it's the English translation book. I said, I know, but anytime my grandmother, my mother, or my father speak in the English version, it has to be in Spanish because they don't speak English, which was like blowing their minds. They were like, what? It's the English book. And I'm like, it's the English book, but my parents and my grandmother speak Spanish. And that's how I want it published. And Velasquez Press was like, yes, love it, love it, love it, love it. And so that's where it started. This third book is scary. It was scary to write because in Latino, Latina, Latinx families, there's a lot underneath the surface that we often don't talk about. Colorism, like we are so biased towards people that are dark, that are darker than us, Black folks. Like there's an undercurrent of colorism, and the other big one that impacts me every day is there's a huge undercurrent in terms of bias towards the LGBTQ plus community. And so what I wanted with this book is I wanted to share my story as a child, as a teenager, but also as an educator, and really tackle that LGBTQ plus issue in a positive way. And I think the reason I was ready is that I've been doing this now, at this national global level for, I think, like 6-7 years, something like that. And I figured that I had laid enough of a foundation that people would be willing to listen, and that educators would be like, Jose said we need to be sharing this book. We need to be sharing this book. And that was important to me because teachers will talk about, Martin Luther King and Black Lives Matter. Sometimes they don't, but they're willing to do that more. But somehow they want to keep their homophobia and their transphobia. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that, y'all. Like, you can't say that you're working to be anti-bias, anti-racist, but, except if you're a Black trans woman. And so I call them out, Chloe. Like, I'm a hot mess.
He does.
I throw bombazos like nobody's business. But then after I throw the bombazos, I'm like, it's okay, sana, sana, colita de rana. You're biased. Go be critically self-reflective. And so I figured that that's why it was the right time. I talk about the book in terms of a love letter to my father. The first poem is actually about my dad. My dad took me to the park when I was like 5 years old, and my dad loves baseball. He loves the Los Angeles Dodgers. My brother does as well. And he tried to teach me how to play baseball, Chloe. I mean, Laura knows this because she's read the book. And I was a hot mess. Like, I was so terrified of the ball just kept going over my head. And I just remember seeing a look in my dad's face and understanding that I wasn't what he dreamed of. And that was like horrible, like a horrible feeling at 5 years old, knowing that you were a mistake in the eyes of some. And I just know that there are others, even today, because I know that there's so much to be grateful for in terms of the movement of the LGBTQ plus community. But I also know that there's a lot of work still to be done by adults, not just those that we're serving in schools, but by the adults that are providing that service. And so that's why I wrote it, because I feel like they've gotten to know me and my 2 prior books that have been fully transparent. And so now is the time. The other push that I got is that about 2.5 years ago, I was serving a school district, and a dual language middle school principal didn't want me to facilitate professional learning for the teachers on that campus, because he had gone to my training and said, that I was really good and my strategies were great, but that I was just too gay.
I wanted you to talk about that.
This was only 2 years ago?
Like 2.5 years ago. Yeah. And I was an invited guest to that district. And this dual language administrator said that I was too gay, and that he didn't feel that the teachers on that campus should go to my training. And I'm like really strong, Lauren, but I'm also super fragile as well, because I've gone through a lot. And I remember just being destroyed by that comment. Also destroyed by the fact that it wasn't an isolated incident. I mean, I get attacked on social media all the time, and it's one of 2 things. You're too Mexican or you're too gay. And so that just led me to believe that this is something that I could change, at least through the dual language lens. I'm somebody that can hopefully share information, at least in my field. And if in my field, I can cause people to think and say, you know what? You are homophobic. You may have a gay best friend, but have you ever shared with your kids what it means to be gay at the age of 3 and 4? Because if you've not, then you are homophobic. You're just a homophobic person who happens to have a gay friend. Like, getting teachers to understand that has been my mission and my goal. And I want you to know that there's still a fear of sharing the book in dual language schools, even though it's one of our goals, even though it's the foundational goal. Sociocultural competence and critical consciousness are the foundation of dual language programming, and they're still afraid. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do.
Yeah, so much more to do. And just you saying like 2 years ago just shows like it just wasn't that long ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's good that we're looking at it, at least some people are looking at it through a different lens, but like, it just was not that long ago that, like, you know what I mean? It's crazy to think about.
Well,
Well,
and a
yeah, and
certain orange guy who got dragged out of the White House today made all of that kind of language a lot more acceptable.
Just brought up back all these feelings. You saying you're getting trolled on the internet. I can only imagine what that looks like and how terrible that is. But I do think social media is great in the sense that you can spread these things now. And I think people are becoming more aware of how they speak about it and how they approach it. But yeah, still so much more work to do.
absolutely. And I think the message, because I know you have a young audience that also listens to. I'm a little bit more seasoned than the two of you. I'm not old. I'm seasoned, and I would say to the listeners and to the viewers that if you're struggling with loving who you are, know that it's a normal thing and that it's an ongoing thing. That will never truly go away, but that you do step by step. Go further in really coming to terms, not even coming to terms, that in loving who you are, because that's really, really important. For me, I often tell myself, I don't know if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, but you know how,
Yes.
like, closer to the finals and stuff, they show them their pictures. What would you say to a young Monet Exchange or whatever, right? I've thought about that, and I wish that I could go back and tell my younger self some things. I started to think about killing myself when I was about 5 years old, and I didn't know exactly what that meant, and I didn't know exactly how I would do it, but I just knew that I wanted it all to end as young as like 4 and 5 years old.
Mm.
And I wish I could go back and tell that young, kid that at 3, 4 years old was hiding a picture of Juan Gabriel, um, in his sock drawer, that one day you would meet this awesome person um, who loves all of you and who loves the long name and all of the drama and the baggage that you carry, and that it is that baggage and those failed relationships and that self-hatred that at one point you had now dictates your life's mission, and they not only are okay with it but see it as the most wonderful and fabulous thing that one can bring into the space. And Tony does that for me. It's so crazy because I'll tell teachers, my full name, and then I'll tell them why the Diaz Cruz, and I'll say, and some of you think you have strong marriages, but I really have the strongest marriage. And it's not even a heterosexual one, because he is just super, super supportive of everything that I do. And he glows in his own light because he's fabulous and outgoing and brilliant. But when he goes to conferences and sees people's reactions to me when I'm presenting, he like is there to support and allows the light to fully fall on my head, on my being. And when it's his time to shine, I do the same thing, because it takes a really strong person to be with me. I'm telling you, Chloe, I don't have to tell Lauren this because Lauren works with me, but I'm a hot mess. And and you need somebody that's willing to engage in really honest conversations about everything to be your partner. And so just for the listeners, know that he, she, they are out there. Like, I remember being with my partner in my 20s and waking up not really caring if he loved me anymore. Like, it wasn't about love. My wish every morning was that it wouldn't be a bad day and that at least there wouldn't be torture.
Well, Jose, you've given so much amazing advice today, but I do think we have somebody who could use a little bit of your specific specialized advice. So, our letter writer today asks, Dear damsels, I grew up in a very strict household, as my parents come from conservative religious and political beliefs, and they are extremely homophobic. I've come out to basically my whole school, my friends, and even have a boyfriend. If you met me, let's just say I'm an open book. But my parents are in denial, and I don't have the heart to tell them. I feel like I'm living a lie, but the fear of living without my parents because of their views also feels terrifying. How can I be my authentic self while maintaining a relationship with my parents? Sincerely, out to the world, but not my home.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing the letter prior so that I had a little bit of time to reflect.
Yeah.
First of all, to out to the world, but not my home, to this individual, just know that I connected with your words, and I'm so very thrilled for you for taking this moment to actually reach out to others. So I was super excited that she, he, they. I don't want to assume anything. That they wrote to Dear Damsels to connect. Um, I think that the piece that for me really struck a chord is the authentic self. So when I hadn't told my parents, I know that one of the things that I considered was that my mother and my father might make the decision to never um, have a strong relationship with me from that point forward. Like that crossed my mind. It's the reason why I waited until my early 20s to come out, even though I
Yeah.
had come out in school and to my friends and family, with the exception of the two of them. Um, but what I kept coming back to was, do I want to live a lie? And I have to tell this person, this individual who wrote this to connect with you all. Once that was clear in my head, do I want to live a lie? And the answer for me was no. Then that really facilitated the decisions that came after that. And so I knew that I didn't want to um, take my last breath one day and not have two of my favorite people, Margarita and Jose Luis, know me, truly know me. And although it was petrifying and it took some time at the beginning, I now see my life and I know that there's no way that I would be where I am today, that I would have been able to serve others the way in which I
Mhm.
hopefully do if I had not made that decision. I know that it sounds cheesy, but there's that movement on social media. It gets better. Um, it really does. And the moment that I came out to my friends in high school, it got better.
Yeah.
And the moment that I found somebody that was my high school crush, so I'm excited that there's a boyfriend here. Um, my life got better. And with each little step it continued to get better. When I told my parents, it got better. When I started telling people at school, when I became a teacher, that I was gay, even if they already wondered it, it got better. And so at the end of the day, the question for this individual is going to be, do I want to be that authentic self? And if so, am I willing to risk it all? And I just have to tell you that I was willing to risk it all because I knew that that's the only way that I could fully breathe. And once I took that decision, I also owned my Latino-ness.
Yeah.
I owned my language-ness, my Spanglishness. It just helped everything to become an intersectionality that was viable for me. But if for some reason you decide that you really feel that your relationship with your parents is something that you cannot risk, and you decide that this is not the decision that you want to take, then that's also your decision because every individual's journey is different. And so all the rest of us can do is just offer our own experience, and hopefully you can take something from that. And I wish this person so much fabulosity and so much strength. And also I wish this person joy, because there's joy to come when you don't have to lie to anyone about who you are. I mean, look, I'm talking to two gorgeous ladies here, and I started by saying I'm queer, I'm a Spanglish speaker, I have a husband, and I just want you to know that that is the best feeling in the world, and I sleep much better too. So
Yeah. I just love this message because I think just listening to you talk, you could be filled with so much resentment and you aren't, and you're just like so ready to take your experiences and just educate people. And I think like you said with your parents being educated, a part of that education is unlearning and
Mhm.
acknowledging your privilege and giving the mic to other people. Like, I just love this conversation, and thank you so much for coming on and talking about all this.
Yes.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you for bringing that unlearning piece. It's so important. All of us are unlearning as well.
Mm-hmm.
You make me so happy. So thank you for
Yes.
coming on today.
I'm so glad we did this today. This was
Thank you. I had so much fun, y'all. I had so much
Yes.
fun. I mean, and as soon as I got the email from Lauren, I was like, hello, yes. We will
Yes,
make
sent
it,
from my phone. Yes.
we will make it happen. Lauren has been so supportive and is such a co-conspirator. She's not an ally. She's a co-conspirator. And it's been such a blessing working alongside her for 3 years, I guess. I guess 3 years.
Yeah.
Maybe longer. I can't remember.
I just remember us first talking about you writing your books, having wine at one of those conferences. And it just is amazing to see it all coming together, and like the way that your fan base has just grown and grown and grown, and how your message has really meant so much to so many people. And I'm just so grateful that we got to share a little bit of that with our listeners today.
No, thank you. If your listeners want more, you can always find me on TikTok at José Medina 1000. I'm the language researcher who also dances. I share a lot of research, but in palatable ways and strategies. But of course, I dance because I went to a lot of quinceañeras in my hometown of El Paso and Juárez, and I'm a really good dancer. And Instagram is José Medina 1000 as well. And then on Twitter, José Medina JR Junior 89. That's the year that I graduated from high school. José Medina 1000 was taken, whatevs. And so that's the only one that's different. But thank you for this opportunity. I'm so excited to see the final product, to hear the final product. So thanks for all that you're doing to create space for folks like me.
And where can we buy your books?
We can really go directly to www.velazquez Press, VELAZQUEZ Press, PRESS.com/JM, as in Joe, the name that was given to me in school, but now Jose, the name that we own, Medina. So you can find the 3 poetry books for children, but also for adults. Available in English and in Spanish, with Spanglish, of course.
Well, thank you so much. This has been incredible.
We love Jose.
I know. I feel really lucky to work with him. Well, everyone, please write us your letters.
Please definitely DM us. And we're excited now. I don't think we've acknowledged that we've joined Believe Podcast Network, which we love. They're another great avenue for promotion. You should check out all of their shows too. We're super excited to be on board with them. But yeah, write us your letters, subscribe, rate, review, all those good things. All right, guys. Well, until next time.
It's going down in the DMs. Bye.